When you walk into a restaurant and order a burger, the carpenter doesn't come out of the kitchen. When the table next to you order ramen, the security staff stay where they are. The right chef and the right person for the right order every time. You have known this in your entire life. It is just obvious and efficient and makes sense. Now imagine a restaurant designed by aliens. You ask for a glass of water, and every single person in the building runs into the dining room. The chef, the security guard, the bartender, everyone. So that's ridiculous. But for years, that was surprisingly close to how AI worked. Every time you ask the question, the entire model woke up to answer that. Every part, every layer, whether it was needed or not. Researchers eventually asked a very simple question: why are we waking everybody up? The answer became one of the most important ideas in modern AI. It's called mixture of experts. And today, many of the world's most AI systems are using it. The video is going to explain exactly how it works. No maths, no code, just the idea. And by the end, you will understand something that most people, even technical people, struggle to explain clearly. To understand why mixture of expert matter, we first need to understand what was broken. So traditional AI models are what we call dense models. Dense means every part of the model is involved in every single answer, every neuron, every layer, every time. Now that sounds reasonable until you think about what AI is actually being asked. One person asks it to solve an equation and another asks it to write an birthday poem. Someone asked why the sky is blue and someone asked it to debug a Python script. So these are completely different tasks and four completely different kinds of thinking. But in a dense model, the same machinery handles all four. The part that helps to write poem will also helps to write the maths problem and understand the code, science question, and it works. But it is incredibly wasteful. It's like hiring 100 specialists and forcing all 100 of one to answer. And the bigger model became the bigger problem. But because now you are wasting a lot of compute, you are actually wasting it a lot at enormous scale every single second. So researcher asked a question that sounds almost too simple. What if we did not have to wake everyone at every time? And that's exactly what we can see here. That in the dance, we'll use all the experts and we'll use 100% of the compute. But if we have mixture of experts, we'll only activate what we actually need. And this is done by something called routing algorithm. We don't have to go inside how routing algorithm work, but the easiest explanation would be, suppose if we have the math expert, code expert, and different kind of expert for different things. And now if we ask some question, so now this gatekeeper or the routing algorithm, it would automatically decide that which expert will give the answer. So let's give it a try. Like when I ask what is 15% of 340, it called the math expert. But on the other hand, if I ask to debug the Python loop, it would ask the code expert. But what would happen if I ask to translate? Then the language expert. And on the other hand, if I want to write a story, it would use the language and creative expert together. So that's the job that gatekeeper and the routing algorithm does. So here is what mixture of expert actually does. Instead of treating the entire model as a one single brain, you have a different combination there. And some lean towards mathematics, some leans towards language or coding. And each of them is called some kind of an expert in their field. Now you add one more small component, which is called a router or a gatekeeper. Think of router as the head waiter, the person standing at the front of the restaurant who looks at your order and decide which kitchen it should go to. So when you send a message to an AI, here is what happens. The router looks at your message. It scores every expert based on how useful they might be. And then it will select the best, like maybe one or two or more, depends upon the expert. The rest stays idle. So that's why in the example, when we ask the maths question, only the maths numerical reasoning expert wake up. But when we ask to write a story, it activates the language and the creative experts both together. So basically, it's activating the right chef, right order, and every time. And here is the crazy part. Some modern AI system contain 100 of these experts. And one of the best example is like Claude Fable 5. But for any single word you type, only a fraction of them would wake up. The restaurant is enormous. Most of the kitchen are simply waiting for the orders they are best at handling. Now here, what is insane? Imagine a model with 8 experts and each of them is having like 7 billion parameters. Altogether, that would make 56 billion parameter, and that's a huge model. But if we activate only 2 experts, that would reduce it to 14 billion. So you access a greater pool of knowledge without paying for the full computational for everything you do. This is not a magic trick. Those parameters were all trained. They all learn together. They all exist inside the model. The system simply choose which is the most useful for you. Think about that restaurant again. The sushi spent years mastering sushi. That knowledge is real. You just do not need the sushi chef standing beside your table while you order a burger. And this is one of the biggest reasons AI improved so quickly. Not simply because computers became faster, not simply because there was more data, because more researchers became smarter about which part of the model should work and which part should stay quiet. More knowledge, less wasted effort. And this is actually the definition of mixture of experts. And in most cases, there are only two experts that are enough. And that's this kind of a golden number that people uses. But I'll attach this playbook in my comments and you guys can play with it. For example, if I want my total experts to be 56, and now the active per token would be like 4 are active at that time. And each of them is about like 14 billion. So actually the model is too huge. It's 784 billion. But because it needs to answer based on only what are active and based on these experts routing algorithm, in actual is only 56 billion. And you can see of the efficiency, like we are 14 times more efficient and activation rate is only 7% of 784 billion models are activated, and that's 56 billion. That's a huge difference. And you can think of as an example that whenever we watch this routing happens, it only select which experts would answer. So if I reduce this to total number of experts to 12 and then change all these values, you can see how these experts would change. And there are some models that we might have heard, and they all use mixture of experts at this point. So there is DeepSeek V3. They uses 256 experts. So they say that their total parameter is 670 billion approx, but the active is only 37 billion. The next one is Kimi K2. They uses 384 experts and active per token are only 8. So you can see like the total parameters are 1 trillion. That's a lot. But active parameters are only 32 billion. And the same case applies to the other famous models, which are Chuan 3 from Alibaba and Gemma 4 from Google. Each of them uses 128 experts and 128 experts in both of them. And their architecture is pretty different, but they use the same number of experts. So the next time you open any AI and type a message, here is what you should imagine. Your words arrive, a tiny router reads them in millisecond, it decides which experts needs to active. It would wake up that expert. The other stays idle, they work together, and you get your answer. That's a $1 billion restaurant running exactly the way a good restaurant should. The reason I find this so interesting is not just the technology. Is it what it says about intelligence itself? Maybe being smart is not about having every part of your brain working all the time. Maybe it's about knowing which part to use and when. Focus beats noise. The right expert for the right question beats everything trying to do everything. We have understood about people for centuries. AI just took a little longer to catch up. Now go open the interactive workbook linked below, play with the router, move the slider, send different questions to different experts and watch which ones wake up. Because understanding at that level can help you how you work with the AI. And if this landed the way I hope it would, please subscribe to AI Parameters because this is just one idea. But we'll keep sharing about these technologies in the future videos.